Welcome back to the Silent Hill 1 commentary. And, yeah, we just, raided the convenience store. I'm sure no
The
one
good
was
old
using
812.
it. One of the oddball things about Silent Hill is that once you're trapped in the fog world, there are all kinds of barriers and collapsed streets and blocked tunnels that prevent you from leaving town or even navigating it conveniently at
A
all.
bunch of clowns in a line saying today we dance for no reason, tomorrow we'll leave for no reason.
Okay, so they do. So they do the "why don't I just leave" thing. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, from what I can tell, every person who decides to go to Silent Hill in this series has a reason to do so. Like they're looking for someone or whatever. So,
In
they'd be kind of
it,
shitty people if they just
it's
left.
there's
well,
a
actually,
thing.
they're shitty people
Yeah,
anyway.
they're shitty people for having a reason to go.
Yeah.
Well, that's more of a Silent Hill 2 and onward thing. In
Yeah, Harry's just actually looking for his daughter, so
Harry and his daughter came here because it's a resort town. They were here to go on vacation. Cheryl specifically asked to come here, which itself is a plot point. But now that he's here and trapped in the fog world, he can't actually leave. He needs to escape the fog world in some sense. In the other games, the city sort of calls to people. Oh, and by the way, the Jeep you crashed over here on Bachman Road, if you search it, you can get, I think, a free healing item. So that's a thing.
Luckily, I always keep a spare health drink on my side.
I'm not sure if it's a health drink or a first aid kit. Well, I guess we'll find out. It's a
health drink.
Health drink.
Right next to mango drink.
Why would you, Lewis? Why would you put a first aid kit in the cup holder?
Well, not in the
Well,
cup holder, obviously.
Well, he puts the first aid kit in the cup holder and the health drink in the glove compartment.
In the dashboard, yeah.
It is a smart idea to have a first aid kit in your car, just saying. And some
and
flares.
jumper cables. Always
Jumper
have
cables,
jumper
yes.
cables. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how helpful that would be in Silent Hill, but
Makeshift whip or something, I don't know.
Oh yeah, you lead the final boss to your car, hook the jumping
On
cables
the
up to the battery.
On the
and other side
subject
to
of
his
the
nipples.
car crash, though, there's an amusing thing for the bad ending here. At one point during the game, Harry reflects that he doesn't know how much of this is real. He could be dying in his car, and this could all just be something conjured up by his brain as his body is giving up.
Like a dying dream. Well, okay, with
so-
that said, have you ever played Shattered Memories?
In the bad ending, that's exactly what happens. If you fail to save Cheryl and Harry Mason also dies, there's an FMV of him dead in his car afterward. It's creepy. Although you don't necessarily have to die during the bad ending. If Sybil Bennett survives, she makes sure you get out of it alive. So that's a thing. There are 4 endings to shoot for in this game: the bad ending plus, the good ending, and the good ending plus.
there's a bad ending plus.
The plus itself signifies whether or not Sybil Bennett survives along with you. There is a certain boss fight, and if you get a certain item before that, you can throw that item in Sybil's face, and she'll survive the boss fight. It makes more sense than I made it sound like it. But basically the thing is, explore a lot and maybe Sybil won't die. But I don't think it's canonical that she survives.
So you see, that's actually interesting because there aren't too many games that I can think of where the bad ending is the canon one.
Well, the bad ending isn't necessarily the canon one. It's just that Sybil Bennett's survival is never referenced in Silent Hill 3. It's kind of left up in the air as to whether or not she survives. But you would think, like, Heather Mason would really get along with Sybil Bennett. So, well, then again, maybe not.
So you were able to swipe the dog in midair with a knife, which it's clearly better than the Resident Evil knife by a long shot. But it's completely ineffective against the pterodactyls?
Well, you can't reach them.
The pterodactyls just come in at an awkward angle. You can probably hit them, but I don't want to try it. I can't get the timing for them down.
Oh, okay.
He's got perfect mugging technique. Low, hunched over the ground, legs spread, hips wide. He's ready to thrust.
Well, actually, to go back to what I said earlier, have you played Shattered Memories?
Yeah, first try. Shattered Memories. I haven't got my hands on it actually. It's kind of expensive these days.
Okay.
Most of my knowledge of it comes from Nitro Rad's review of it. He's got a good channel. Y'all should watch him when you're done here, of course.
I've seen. We did a Let's Play of it on SGB years ago, and from what I understand, it is a retelling of this game. It's not one-to-one the same, but it is a reinterpretation.
Yeah, heavy reinterpretation.
Yeah.
Basically, nothing is the same. And there's a lot of doubt cast about your main character's sanity during the event, too. Also, they took the fact that it was snowing and dialed it to 11, so it's like full-on winter and there's ice everywhere. And
They made it part of like the Otherworld effect, I think. It's like everything gets frozen in ice.
Yeah, I think
when
so.
fuckery is about.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I don't think
now
it was
that
a
I
bad
think
game,
about it,
though.
the fact that Sybil found the gun in this alley explains the presence of handgun bullets next to where she would have found Harry Mason. Huh. Never thought of that before.
Is this the kind of game where you need to write down stuff to remember where things are going to be?
No, because Harry Mason does that for you on his map.
Oh, nice.
You see all those little red marks?
Oh,
Whenever you
okay.
get to a dead end, he automatically crosses off a dead end. Whenever there's an important location, he'll circle it.
I'm surprised he doesn't write every area where he encounters a monster. No.
The fact that you have a map that you scribble on is something that gets more attention from the designers in 2 and especially 3, where Heather Mason's personality even bleeds through in how she marks things down on her map. And she, unlike Harry Mason in this game, has the presence of mind to draw a map of her own in an area that she doesn't have a map for. So that's a thing. I think James Sunderland does the same thing in one of the areas in Silent Hill 2 as well. In any case, one of the things that I really like about the street names in Silent Hill 1 is that they're all based on they're all named after various authors.
It is a Stephen King novel.
You start out on Bachman Road, but there's also a Crichton Street that
There was a Bradbury as well.
Yeah, Bradbury as well.
It makes more sense than Philadelphia naming everything after trees and how the hardness of the tree determines how far into the city you are. This is a real thing for the record.
No. Philadelphia's name refers to a forest, so...
Shit, damn it.
Ted, could be worse. It could be in Atlanta where every road is Peachtree, no matter what.
Now, King of Prussia, that is just something I don't understand.
We have one of those here, too.
I mean, what's there to get? I mean...
Alright, so you're going to be seeing the map a lot in these games, because I lose my bearings in the
Oh,
city
that's me
sections
in
quite a
every...
lot.
That's me in almost every game. If there's a map, I'm staring at that thing more often. I navigate by the map in some... I navigate by the mini-map in some games, actually.
You kind of wish Silent Hill had a Nintendo DS port or 3DS port, have a map on the second screen.
I have to turn off the mini-map in games like The Witcher 3 just to stop myself from staring at it the whole time. You know?
I mean, I glance at a mini-map for a fraction of a second, and it's enough for me, and I can just pay attention to
Fallout
surroundings.
3 spoiled the fuck out of me because it has this compass that directs you to wherever your objective is, and it sort of got me into the habit of staring at that rather than the game world, and then just beelining it in a straight line to wherever I'm going, which is not the way to play Witcher 3. The world is too beautiful for that.
I remember back when Breath of the Wild was new, a lot of people were saying that the best way to play the game was with the minimap turned off as well.
Yeah, it's you get that Ubisoft syndrome in a lot of open world games, where there are markers all over the map, and you're just going from marker to marker to do things. But then you miss the world around you and whatever secrets it may hold, and that's kind of it's kind of a place where the game design undermines its own intentions.
I kind of find I didn't really find an issue with that, honestly, because
it varies from player to player.
Because to use Breath of the Wild as an example, even though I have waymarks set up, I still get distracted by like 17 shrines along the way.
Yeah,
you know,
it's just it's a habit that's easy to fall into with Bethesda games in particular. I mean, not Morrowind. Morrowind didn't have that kind of thing going on. You had to navigate the worlds the way an actual person would, and it was probably the best thing about that game. Well, if you could get past the 60 billion glitches anyway. The
Well, 60 billion glitches is just Bethesda MO.
It was
so
especially bad in Morrowind. If you're going to play Morrowind, get the Steam version and then install the overhaul mod that fixes half that crap, and you'll have a much better experience, trust me.
You see, the thing
But,
is that people tell me the same thing about Oblivion and Skyrim, so,
Well, Oblivion has its share of jank, but it's mostly just jank rather than glitches. There's a difference. Skyrim has glitches, but the only memorable one is the one where a giant swings its club down at you and hits you into the ground so hard that the physics engine rockets you into the sky. I'm not making that up, and it was such a funny glitch that they intentionally left it in. They never patched it, so it's still in the game. So if you want,
that's the Civilization Gandhi kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if you want to amuse yourself, there's a giant pretty early on into the game. If you just approach it and let it kill you, it'll be the most hilarious death you'll ever see.
You get away.
Well, that's pretty much what it feels like going after a giant in the early game. Yeah, I couldn't get this thing with a knife, so I'm just pumping bullets into it. I like the fact that the enemies land on the ground before they properly die, and you can just walk away. They won't come after you. They won't get up, but you can finish them off, kick them.
Good old boot to the
Do
head.
enemies respawn in this game, or are they finite like in Resident Evil?
Finite. I think the only time they'll ever respawn in an area that you've already killed enemies in is like when you pass a certain point in the plot and you have to backtrack, so they'll repopulate a little with some
God
enemies.
forbid you get crimson pterodactyls.
Yeah, this is not Resident Evil where you're trying to kill enemies to make safe backtracking locations all the time. Although you will want to do that in the dungeon areas, I suppose. But
Oh man, I love Queen Burger.
Queen Burger. Welcome to Queen Burger, home of the Queen Burger.
May I accept your purchase?
Made with only the freshest dog meat and pterodactyl innards.
I'll have one whapper.
Hey man, are those chicken mozzarella sticks back yet? I love that time of year.
The other thing about the unlimited inventory in this game, though, is that if you're any decent at the game, by the end of the game you'll have more healing items than you know what to do with.
Well, I suppose you could say, do you mean like you don't have to be really good? You just have to be okay at it? Because you could say that about a lot of games.
You just have to be okay at it and actually explore around. This is the most tedious part of exploring, though, because there are items scattered around the foggy town, and if you want item completion, you have to get all of them. If you're doing this blind, basically what you want to do is follow all of the sidewalks, because they'll always be around the edges. They won't be like in the middle of the street or anything. So follow all of the sidewalks, mark off all of the dead ends meticulously. Just trace the edges of every street you can go on. No, you can't fall down. We haven't reached PlayStation 3 6-axis balancing yet. Thank God.
And you're not playing Clock Tower either.
I'm so happy that you just keep your normal walking speed though, because I'm so used to games making you slowly like go ooh and wobble over that.
Yeah, yeah, that was Uncharted 1. It had that little gimmick for the PlayStation 3 6-axis motion controls, and
Everyone's favorite part of early PS3 games.
The thing is, the 6-axis isn't bad, It works fine in Flower, which was a game completely dedicated to it. You just have to have it, programmed in a dedicated way.
I think it's more just that a lot of quotation marks here, hardcore gamers around the time of the Wii were like, no, we don't want motion controls. We want real games. And so
I want real controls.
The thing is that the motion controls on the 6-axis were used for really stupid gimmicky shit, like controlling your field
a lot
of
of the
view
Wii
and
games.
hiding, like controlling your field of view and hiding in a dumpster in Metal Gear Solid 4. Have you ever hidden in a dumpster in Metal Gear Solid 4? No, of course you haven't. It's useless.
I'm just saying that a lot of
Barrels are
people would throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, "Oh, I don't like motion controls at all."
Oh, I agree.
So have them in no games ever. So I feel like
agree.
a lot of no developers saw the need to have it in.
I agree, and there are things that you can do with it for sure. It's just, between it being treated like a gimmick and actually being a gimmick in a lot of cases, it was overlooked. A lot of peripheral stuff gets overlooked in that sense.
Does the PS4 controller even have any motion gyro stuff in it at all?
Yeah, it has the 6-axis actually.
Oh, okay.
Nobody uses it.
Okay.
Well, it's there for certain games, like you can use it in Gravity Rush and all.
Yeah, they push the touchpad more than the 6-axis though.
Yeah, but there's less you can do with the touchpad than the 6
Well, the
axis.
touchpad actually works better for general like the pointing or clicking stuff.
That, and they could just make it also function as a clicky button, so
Yeah.
it also provides an extra button. Huzzah!
Although I don't like games that use the touchpad as a start or slide because no.
Yeah,
No,
that's,
I agree there. It's just
That's annoying.
It functionally provides more feedback than trying to wiggle a controller around.
it forces you to forget every other Tuesday what your muscle memory tells you your controller is for. Anyway, now that you've got a pipe, you basically don't need the kitchen knife at all because it's got a much better range.
It doesn't degrade over time, right? Like nothing breaks or anything?
No, that's not until Downpour. Downpour is the one with destructible, degradable weapons that you find and scavenge around the town. Actually, that leads to a somewhat cool mechanic where, like, there are certain barriers of entry that you need a certain 1 or 2 types of weapon to break through, so you want to hang on to weapons that can do that if you can, but you'll usually find one nearby if you happen to have broken it. So I like that aspect of Downpour.
First try.
Kind of some old PS1 jank there where Lewis clearly hit the dog, but it was already in the middle of its jump animation, so...
The jump animation is actually where you want to hit it, actually. You can...
Well, no, you got it at the start of the jump animation, and
Yeah.
it indirectly had armor frames as a result.
It's more that if it's in midair, you can interrupt its attack completely, and that's
Yeah.
what you want to do against the dogs with melee weapons.
But if you get it while it's getting ready to jump, it'll still jump. So you'll hit it, but it'll still hit you.
Yeah, well, that's more of a hitbox thing than an armor frame
Yeah,
thing.
that's what I was saying, the old PS1 jank.
Yeah.
Now die.
The enemies in Silent Hill 1 are fun enough to fight. The enemies in Silent Hill 2, honestly, are kind of annoying. Like, they don't really lunge at you like these ones do. They kind of get up close very slowly and barf at you. So
This thing, though, Silent Hill, well, early Silent Hill anyway, always struck me as, like, Resident Evil, where combat's not really the point.
yeah, it's just that combat's kind of all you have to do in the foggy town. So, just saying. Find a health drink here and there and fight the enemies.
You should consider getting a cooler for all these damn health drinks, Harry. Just wheel it around.
What flavor is it? Health. Ah, yeah.
Yeah, health flavor, my favorite.
But the enemies in Silent Hill 2 kind of have this thing where you have to get up close enough to melee them if you're going to melee them, but they also barf at you, and it's hard to get up close and not get barfed on before you swing at them. You kind of have to finagle around, and, it's... I don't like it. Oh.
Like how the dog was perfectly synced up with Harry, so you couldn't see it coming right at you.
Yeah. In any case, the thing about the infinite inventory, because there are like 3 tiers of healing item, but because you can carry as many health drinks as you want, you usually just go in order from your weakest healing item to your strongest.
Yeah,
and
you just spam that
you
shit.
chug health drinks rather than give up your first aid kit, It wasn't until Silent Hill 4 that they did something like a real-time inventory management system that had limits. And that had more to do with them wanting you to go back to the room a lot. So, yeah, Silent Hill 4 has a Resident Evil-like item box, but the item box is only in your apartment room. So, you have a limited inventory for carrying things into the hole in the wall, and then you have to use the item box to manage your inventory otherwise. God damn that camera. God. First try! Ugh.
I love it in Demon Dogs!
When did Silent Hill come out again?
98?
99.
Okay.
98,
Oh,
99, somewhere around there.
There's the doghouse. You can check to say there's no dog here. Well, there's one right there.
I think you can get that message while the dog is still alive, even. Oh,
Yes,
damn.
you can. That's the joke. There's a screenshot of Harry checking the doghouse while the dog is lunging at him.
Yeah.
Now, you see that heavy overhand swing that I was trying to do there? Well, I wasn't trying to do it. I was doing it by accident. That happens, I think, if you hold the button down. You actually do have two different ways of attacking with your melee weapons. In this case, you have your double swing, and then you have a slow, heavy overhead, which I think does more damage, but is not something you generally want to use when an enemy is coming at you fast, unless you have godlike reflexes and timing. And it can be a little difficult to time things in the Foggy Town, particularly, because it's kind of hard to see anything. I mean, the draw distance is bad, yeah, but the fog makes it worse. Speaking of the fog, that was one of the things they got wrong in the HD collection. Believe it or not. And it's such an iconic part of the franchise that you'd think they'd put care into making it better, even, now that they're on a better system, but no. They got the fog wrong.
So what was the reason behind them having to change so much for the HD ports of these games?
I don't know. I think it was like they were using...
optimization.
I think it wasn't just optimization. From what I heard, I think they were using an early build of the game.
Like, because I know that they had to do stuff like
I took
re-record
it
all
is
the
that
voice acting, too.
The fog, in my opinion, was always a way to just mask the limitations of the console. But it just happened to be a really effective tool for a horror game.
Yeah.
Especially a psychological horror in Silent Hill 2's case. But for the HD remasters, I think maybe they figured, well, we don't have those limitations anymore, bringing it to new consoles, so we can just get rid of the fog.
Well, they didn't really get rid of it. It's just really bad fog. But yeah, they were using an older build of the game. I think in one case, some placeholder text on a sign got left in because there's a sign that says Silent Hill Ranch in the very first section of Silent Hill 2 that has this sort of fancy squarish font in the finished game. It's Comic Sans in the HD collection.
Actual
Literally
Comic Sans?
Actual Comic Sans, yes.
Oh.
Also, yeah, when you find maps with their own notes on them, Harry Mason will actually add them to his own map, which is a handy thing and also pretty cool. I like the idea that he's carrying this map and making notes on it rather than, having your blinky grid-like computer map as in Resident Evil 1. I mean, that kind of thing makes sense if your character happens to be carrying around a phone or something, but, well, this was before that time. We didn't quite have computers in our pockets yet back in '98. We were banging rocks together.
You couldn't even fit a phone in your pocket. That crap needed a suitcase still. Look up 80s suitcases not 80s suitcases, 80s cell phones if you ever want to have a good laugh.
You ever been in a car with a car phone in it?
Oh
my god.